All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back. Another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, host Brandon, Joe, my co-host Nick and Dan. It is deadline day, almost. I guess we're technically recording on the 30th. This will go out on the 31st. So we're like deadline eve at this point.
Merry deadline eve to you as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Great tidings. You know, it's a celebration of great food and wonderful meals.
No boredom. There's no games this weekend, but there's no boredom. That is for sure. Then let alone today, again, you know, us professionals trying to work during the day and absolutely not having it.
Well, I did. I actually had to work, so I would get like 2 or 3 minutes, look at the many, I think 198 messages in our WhatsApp group, trying to keep up. And yeah, I just couldn't keep up today. It was one of the crazier days that we've had in a month of crazy days.
I just don't think I was expecting this type of, you know, activity, I guess, from Chelsea, more or less, right? It's just been, you know, just nonstop. No doesn't mean no, right? No just means more cash, which apparently Bull and Igbali have endless amounts of it. And the overhaul that this team already has gone, and if we land the Enzo train here, you know, on deadline day, this team, and by the way, and we'll get into all this, if the bonus points of Jorginho goes to Arsenal, I mean, you might have actually resolved all of our problems in one window. And it was a post-World Cup January window, which on paper seems like, Dan, should be the messiest and ugliest of them all. They're new owners. They're Americans. What the hell do they know?
Oh, look, they're not going the 007 route as Americans. They're going more Mission Impossible, Ethan Hunt style. No mission too big for Igbali, Boley, and everyone else, Nicholas. It just is coming together perfectly.
Turns out they're doing their own stunts, which I find to be fascinating, taking a page out of Cruz's book. You know, who knows? Like, Boley might be actually flying this jet. We don't know. I mean, it's very possible.
Checked his pilot's license yet?
Yeah, I mean, he's up there with the aviators on, looking suave, you know, landing that thing in Lisbon. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, for this one, we're going to be talking about the craziness that has been unfolding here on deadline day eve around, you know, mainly Enzo Fernandez. We'll look at the outgoings potentially coming into focus. A lot of, I would say,
give
people.
Him a Portuguese name. Did you?
Well, you know, he's in Portugal, right? That's what they're saying.
Yeah,
but it's like on the outgoings, it's like a Jenga game, right? People are just poking at bricks right now to see what'll come loose in the Chelsea team. They're just waiting for one to slide out, and then they're gonna go, got one. So we'll see who ends up yelling Jenga, and then we'll try to land on what we think happens before the fax machines are disconnected until the summer. Man, that seems like a long time away. We got a lot of football between now and then. So before we do that, again, just huge shout outs to everybody in the Patreon Discord. If you want to join, best Chelsea community out there, you can do that through Patreon. We need reviews. I think you guys are asking to get to 2,000 on Spotify by the time we get to London. You know, I think we could get to 15,000 Apple Podcasts at the same time. And just a little bit of effort.
15,000, huh?
Maybe a lot of VPNing, a lot of new accounts, but you know, there's a will, there's a way.
Please do not cause a situation where we get pulled for falsification of information.
Yeah.
No, like again, just want some reviews that'll help us. So, but before we get into it, we're going to take our ad break, get it out of the way. When we're back right away into Mr. Enzo. Thank you to the sponsors. We'll be right back. All right, here we go. Track and flight stand. That's when you know it's bad or good. It's just intense. So you're the culprit. You sent the flight tracker.
I sent this a link somebody else surfaced.
Okay,
I mean, look,
Elon,
I can't be held responsible.
Yeah, okay, right.
Can't be held responsible for what people do with it after the fact, but I saw it on Twitter, which I'm surprised it actually survived as a tweet on there because that is supposedly against terms of service. But yeah, flights have been tracked, which I don't know. It's just special types of coordination and mass hysteria and excitement tend to occur in these types of scenarios that pre-social media trying to follow these type of interactions and maybe more so like of baseball teams or football teams or trades of that nature. It was really limited to like one singular source of information. But now that you can, I don't know, people can work together to try to figure things out through the mass amounts of information available at their fingertips, and to be able to see when a certain plane took off in London near Chelsea's training ground and when that plane arrived in Lisbon this evening, US time. That was really interesting to me, along with all the other things, which effectively, Nick, was how quickly the story changed from when we spoke with Ollie this weekend and talked about the fact that this was possible now, it was in the realm of possibility, and how quickly it moved as we went to bed that evening into today, where everything had ramped right back up to an 11 and saying, yeah, this is actually looking like it's going to happen now.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, 30 hours ago I recorded that. And yeah, it definitely feels like a lot has changed. I mean, it went from like possible to probable. We just need that meter to tick up to actual now and get those papers signed. And, it's, you hate leaving stuff to the last day because things can change so quickly and you have no margin of error on the 31st of January, so hopefully they're able to get something done late. We're recording this like 8 Central on Monday. So hopefully they're able to get it done by the time we wake up and everything's signed, sealed, delivered. He's on the jet back to London. They get the medical and all that sort of stuff done. I think that's why they're taking such a big team, right, Brandon, is because I think they're looking to not only figure out all the financial stuff, which is, we'll get into in a second, but yeah, I think they're looking to get the medical done there too. So it's all kind of done in one spot and we can move on. Cause otherwise the margin of error, like you flying back to London, you do the medical there, does everything get signed in time? Do we miss the facts like the Vikings did in the draft a few years ago? I just, you don't want to leave anything to chance. So I think they took the whole damn squad to Lisbon.
They're obviously going with everybody they need to get it done, right? They're not going to leave anything to chance at this one. I think Matt Law said this is similar to, when they went to Turkey to finalize Mudryk. You take the team, probably got the notary, right? You got the person with the checkbook, you got everybody there so that, nothing can fall through the cracks. So, we talked about, it's funny when it comes to Monday, right? And people are supposed to be in training and things, all of a sudden there's a lot more discussion. It's all muddy. Did he, didn't he? We don't really know. We know he was around. But what we do know is that very much the club are taking it seriously. It's to the point where like they've even, very public about it on their end. They're pretty much down to the wire of saying, I'm sure they had the discussion today and made the decision. We're just going to find out tomorrow if everything gets signed, sealed, and delivered. Win Stanley's going as well, so he's continuing to be a person involved in these things. Egbali, it sounds like, who was I listening to today? Yeah, I forgot. There's just so much content right now, so I apologize. But it sounds like he's the one who is like driving this home and is like very much the one who wants Enzo and his player profile and is like, we'll pay over if you give us longer to pay and all these, 5 installments and things like that. It's really interesting. But David Ornstein broke it with the first offer, saying Chelsea has submitted an offer with 120 million euros for Enzo Fernandez, insisting on getting the deal done. No outcome yet, but the 22-year-old Argentina international World Cup winner, we might add, they just want this done. Talks never stop. The focus is now to avoid a summer fight. So I think he's definitely been on top of this. But when you get Duncan Castles, who is like a Manchester United mouthpiece, very much anti
the mouth of Mendes, Mendes.
Yeah. Ronaldo days. He said Benfica and Chelsea are set to agree a record transfer fee for Enzo Fernandez, around 130 million euros. payments by installment. Argentina midfielder missed training today. Maybe didn't he, whatever. So it sounds like we're going to pay like a huge chunk up front and then 5 installments afterwards. So what I thought was interesting, and Naz had this in his article that I sent you guys. So Dan, the accounting trickery is that if you pay a release clause, you have to recognize on accounting the entire amount, like in that moment. Whereas if you can get to agree a fee with the club, you can amortize that over years. So it sounds like Chelsea, if the release clause was 120 and we're paying 130, it's actually because financially it helps us to do installments. So again, they're like, look, we'll give you an extra 10 million just to do installments. It is fascinating how quickly they've kind of figured out this accounting game in world football.
It's called interest. I mean, it's effectively what you're paying an interest payment or a premium payment to get the terms that you're looking for. I think the things to keep in mind. So again, it's not our money, right? It's Chelsea's money. It's Clear Lake's money to go out and do this. And I think to get a top individual, a world-class player, even though maybe a little unproven, a little at the early end of his career for a long period of time, super exciting, 100% in on it, been on it for a very, very long time, regardless of the price. The fact that they're looking to structure more upfront, which has been the challenge for Benfica. Benfica has been amenable to the idea that Chelsea would not pay the release clause for the reasons that you stated, but wanted some level of dollars or euros or pounds reflective of the fact or getting close to a number that is within line of maybe their true valuation of what the player is actually worth in the standard market, so they go reinvest, that they can do things with it and not have the installments go over multiple seasons. So that's where we've heard the thing. I think Ben Jacobs and others have talked about this fact that it's potentially 5 installments afterwards that would lead you potentially to maybe is it a 6-year terms that Chelsea would amortize it over on the books in terms of the total life value of the contract. Like that's still what remains to be seen, Nick. But the biggest thing was going to be convincing the full board and convincing Rui Costa that this was something that Chelsea were willing to do, that the player did want the move to happen, which also reports indicated that that was the case as well. And now Chelsea finds themselves in the position where the stars have aligned, the oceans have been parted. Rui Costa missed an event to stay in Lisbon to handle this scenario as well. So everybody got on board and they were able to find a way forward. Seemingly in this deal, pending any last minute hitches, looks like to be the biggest statement signing that Chelsea have made ever.
Yeah, I mean it's a little wild. You don't really know what's going on behind closed doors, but I think the sign that Benfica are willing to go to the table again and again and again and like figure out a way to negotiate, right? Because both sides are negotiating. I think there's this like fake idea out there that Chelsea's just like throwing cash at them and saying, no, give us the player. No, give us the player. No, they're just negotiating. I mean, Chelsea will give them, looks like we'll give them the amount of money that they want, Brandon. But I think the key point about this is that maybe Chelsea get more favorable terms. Maybe, they have a different sort of thought process on when they're going to make that 5th payment. Maybe they have, maybe they understand like when Premier League rights are up next and they might get more money in again, right? Like they're probably taking everything into account right now with finances and trying to figure out the best possible scenario to make the signing, because this is not the last signing that we're going to make. We're going to go back in the summer. We have to. The squad needs to be rebuilt. And I know that's going to, make fans of other teams uncomfortable. I don't give a fuck. This team needs to be built to win for a decade, and that's exactly what Eghbali and co are doing. And it's all just negotiations now.
Apparently they're good at it, because you would think that this late in the window, teams would shut up shop, right? Hey, no, it's too late. We're not doing anything. One thing that helps us is that it sounds like they already know who the replacement is. It looks like they're going to go to Varela out of, I think, Argentina again, right? Was he at Boca?
Yep.
So they know what they're going to do, just like any good club. And South America's season is different. I think it's kind of like MLS when they're in the off season right now. So he's very much go gettable, even with the window closing. So again, like the fact that, they have a contingency plan or a backup, it just goes to show that Bully and Igbali and the team clearly are able to communicate and keep lines open throughout this, because this was started early, then it cooled off, and now they're back. And especially with the other things moving in the market, Caicedo and Arsenal, and how this is really ramping up, and he's not allowed back at the facility until it gets done. I mean, it is, it's just really interesting to see how everything's going. I feel like in the past, the door would have been closed in our face at this point, but here we are at the 11th hour, still very publicly having ongoing discussions with them. It seems very positive across all transfers so far.
Yeah. And look, I mean, perhaps the two sides didn't see eye to eye back in early January when this first started, right? Perhaps we tried to lowball them. Perhaps they tried to be exorbitant in their demands with us. And, the two sides just kept chatting and seeing what was going on. And, at this point, Benfica's, ready to sell. I firmly believe they don't want to lose this player just as much as I firmly believe we want to get him. I think both those things are happening at the same time. But yeah, I mean, it's the perfect time for them to sell. We have the cash to do it. And Dan, I think this feels very much to me like that summer that we got Havertz and Werner and I think a couple other players too, but Chilwell, and that we just had the cash on hand when other teams didn't, and we were able to capitalize in that space. And that is a really interesting spot when you consider United's up for sale, Liverpool's up for sale, City are doing weird things in this market, and Arsenal clearly can't negotiate worth a shit.
Yeah, I don't know if it feels like that, or maybe it feels more like the Costa Fabregas type of signing, because I think, as you mentioned too, like Nkunku is also coming in the summer, and so like Chelsea are doing some really crazy advanced business in addition to addressing things now for the remainder of the season, which can fundamentally change the trajectory of this team's season, where we have been talking about, is top four possible with the squad that we have? And now you look at the fact that maybe you beat Fulham this coming weekend, you get past Tottenham, and you're potentially back up in that top four spot, which looked really, really difficult to navigate the path forward with the existing squad we have. You have a Champions League run, which looks super gettable. It feels like a wide open field. And so that's 90 minutes of football. We're going to be able to bring in Endo Fernandez, Madueke, and others, Mikhailo Mudryk, to help that attack. Like, it is just a tantalizingly incredible opportunity that Chelsea are putting themselves into to take advantage of the weak kind of market conditions, and then also their ability to pay cash, to not be debt straddled at the moment in terms of what the club has kind of on its books and on its records, and just to go big now. Like, this is phenomenal. You should be super excited. You should be incredibly over the moon about how pissed it's made rival supporters who just can't deal with the fact that Chelsea, despite many attempts to put the stake through the heart, has not been able to be put down, Brandon. Like, we keep on coming back, and it is absolutely terrifying with them. And I think that is also a little bit part of why this feels so sweet, is because of last year around this time, when you didn't know what was happening with the club, to being in this position now where Chelsea are on a massive ascendancy that basically have strapped rocket boosters and are going into orbit, like going up into the fucking moon. This is where Chelsea is right now. And other clubs are like, we can't even sign the one midfielder target that we wanted, or the one attacker we wanted, because Chelsea signed the two people, our option A and option B. And then now there's no option Z for us.
I tell you what, I mean, the summer window kind of gave us a little bit of an idea, I think, but like, you could really tell they didn't have it figured out. I don't know what they did during the World Cup. They figured out a lot real quick. And
crash course, man.
Yeah. I don't know who they talked to or whatever, but like they've come out guns a blazing. on this one, especially, after losing Rudiger and Christensen and Timo and some important players that you've had in the squad. It has been, I'm just looking at the list of people that have come in just since the summer, and it is so long. I would say, Dan, back to your flight thing. And I was kind of, all right, what are you going to really put into it if just a flight is leaving? Granted, how many people are going to be going from just outside Cobham to Lisbon on a private jet? But you're saying this is the same plane identification number that has gone to Madrid. It's gone to Amsterdam, maybe Geneva, and essentially probably went to meet for Joao Felix, Madueke, and potentially Gusto. So I think you short sold yourself a little bit on the fact that this plane has some history for Chelsea.
Look, I saw this circulating across a couple of accounts, so I don't want to favorite one over the other, but this was the research that someone did, that the aircraft identification number has made these trips in line to go, and they're well-timed within the transfer dealings that we have done this window. And so lo and behold, this does seem to portend what is the hopefully eventual signing that we will wake up to in the morning, and we will see hundreds of tweets. It's going to take us 20 minutes to scroll through every bit of news. So just, make sure to wake up a little early to get that done, and Chelsea will have gotten their guy.
Yeah, a couple of quick things. One, Andrew Allen of Arseblog fame, I can't even say that stupid ass name, said Chelsea really are wankers, and that just warms the cockles of my heart, really. Just tremendous stuff. And the second thing that an astute Ollie Glanville pointed out to us is Chelsea's Twitter bio is currently empty. Perhaps warming up room. And if we wake up tomorrow and there's a picture of a race car on there, for those who understand Ferraris, then I think we got our guy. That would just be a classy way to do that.
Again, a new era of comms from the new owners. So look, clearing the bio means they're just getting ready for something. All right, we're gonna take a last.
It's very much in the vein though of like the Breaking Bad. He can't keep getting away with it type of thing that every other team is looking at us. And the last thing I'll say is the people who are going to be the most happiest about this deal getting done is Dortmund for the Jude Bellingham race that will take place in the summer. Because if we have set the mark as the young world-class midfielder of 130 million, we have just helped raise the floor for the Bellingham situation.
Look what we did to Caicedo.
Real Madrid, Liverpool, City, you're welcome.
No, look, United and Liverpool up for sale. There's no way these investors are on their way out going to splash 120 million on a player. I mean, it's the perfect storm, honestly, for Chelsea. All these clubs going up for sale is so interesting on the timing. Tottenham are potentially on the shopping block as well. But, like Caicedo, his price has jumped. They probably could have gotten him for 50, 60. Now it's like at least 80. For him. And again, the funny comparison is that him and Caicedo and Enzo, they both just got to those clubs. They haven't even been there a full season. They're like well under 15 million each. And now they're going for, an amazing venture capitalist esque type return.
It's what we talked about, bro. With Ollie. It's like, cool, buy Enzo and then go find the next Enzo. So you have a 3-year lag to this current Enzo. Like that's the ideal scenario, because you can't keep spending 150 million on players. It's just not sustainable. And so Chelsea then have to shift gears into, younger talent identification, your Andre Santos of the world, and make that move more frequent and bet them in and get them up to speed. That's the way to do it.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our last break. When we get back, some outgoings, again, back to the Jenga analogies, things are sponsors. All right. Well, besides all of that might happen on coming into the squad, I mean, we've all seen the memes of Chelsea's squad photo where it's, literally the youth academy of about 120 people. Look, obviously people got to go. And today, a lot of different things broke about outgoings. I mean, some things I think really caught me off guard. Even I was surprised that I didn't even, make the links to players. But I think once you start buying so much, people know that you have to offload. And so they're saying like, hey, we might not have gone for that player normally, but since you guys are so bloated, let us again tap on that Jenga block, see what happens. And a lot is happening. The big one, Dan, is Jorginho to Arsenal. And again, I don't think it's fair for us to celebrate a player leaving, especially Jorginho. He's won, pretty much everything under the club. But I think that most Chelsea fans would say, hey, with the revolution we're undergoing, losing Jorginho right before he's about to go for free and get a little bit of money for him, that's about as good a business as you can really do, I think, in this situation.
That, to me, is why this makes the most sense to do it right now. You have the summer and what we saw happen last summer with Rudiger and with Christensen is Chelsea lost out on an opportunity to capitalize on funds to reinvest back to the side. Thankfully, our new owners have been doing a great job at investing with the funds that they have come to the table with, but that's not always going to be, that type of spend is not always going to be the way forward. And they are likely at some point going to want us to be maybe a cash neutral type of operation. And so if you can inject 15, 20 million pounds back into Chelsea's books for this season with the deal potentially for Jorginho going, who's going to be out at the end of the season anyway, and be able to choose whomever he wants to go to. This does feel like it is the right time, even though we have had a squad that's been bereft with injury. We have been not necessarily as deep as we like in certain positions. You are about to bring a midfielder into that role who would likely start ahead of Jorginho. I don't imagine a Fernandes-Jorginho midfield being the way that it works. It's likely a Fernandes and Kovar, or Fernandes and Conte when he's healthy, or Fernandes and Chukwuemeka. Like, there's a lot of other options here for what that 11 is going to look like, that I don't think there's a natural Enzo plus Jorginho situation, Nick, where it makes a whole lot of sense. And so for someone who's going to want to play for a club that is going to need to sell some assets, this feels like the right move. It doesn't feel great to sell it to a London rival. I think that's what everyone's going to get maybe stuck up on. Like, if you took it out of the equation and said an anonymous club in England was going to offer, 15 million pounds for Jorginho, you probably would take it. If you didn't know it was Arsenal, you would likely take it without a second thought.
Yeah, I'm not celebrating a player leaving. I just don't know where Jorginho fits if Enzo comes in. I mean, Enzo would essentially take his position on the left-hand side of that midfield too, or would play more advanced in a 3, which would mean that we need like a Zakaria type player in a holding situation, because we know Jorginho's not athletic enough right now to play that holding role effectively for a number of matches in a row. And, he doesn't really protect Thiago Silva. Like, I think we all understand that Thiago Silva needs to be protected right now. So I think it's more about like, where does Jorginho play if Enzo comes in? And I think the answer is likely not much. As a rotational player, is that what he wants? I mean, I don't know. I mean, all this to be said, this deal is not done, right? And we don't know if it's going to get done. So I think we're, a little premature in talking about this, frankly. But I think it's more about playing time than anything else. Like, the fee we're going to get is going to be a pittance, compared to what we could have had a couple of years ago after he finished third in the Ballon d'Or voting and won the Champions League, right? So I don't think it's necessarily about fee. I think if he was going to leave over the summer, it's about getting the wages off the books and freeing up that space for younger players on lower wages for longer contracts, which we know is the Bully, Egbali, and Feliciano strategy. So we'll call it the Beth strategy. So I mean, it's more about his wage packet, which is hardcore, and will stop a lot of sales outgoing this summer. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him going to Arsenal, but if they've struck out 4 or 5 times this window and are desperate, I'm sure we could come to an agreement with them.
I mean, Matt said that. Matt Law did. He said they're always going to listen to an offer for him if it came in. Again, I think we're revamping the midfield. You're obviously edging younger I mean, these guys will not buy anyone over the age of 23 at this point, the way things have been going. So, they obviously want to skew it down. Jorginho's on big wages. And again, if you can get a little bit of money at the end, it would go a long way. And I think that their priorities have shifted very aggressively. I mean, the team that's going to finish this season is going to be unrecognizable from the first week of the season. So, very interesting. Matt Law said Arsenal would make a lot of sense. It's probably for him because he's not going to have to uproot his family, right? He's not really going to have to uproot his lifestyle. And I think that's why we've seen like David Luiz and Willian and Petr Cech and players go from Chelsea to London. It's just a little bit easier. So we don't need to talk about a Premier League title either at this point.
Go to Arsenal, not London. Yes.
Yeah.
Stay in London.
Yeah. There you go. Conor Gallagher. This one picked up quite a bit of steam today, but he got very entangled very quickly. So Fabrizio obviously saying exclusive Everton have submitted a bid to sign Conor Gallagher from Chelsea. It's 40 million proposal plus 5 million in add-ons. I think this is literally the Anthony Gordon money, from him going to Newcastle from Everton. He said Chelsea going to make a decision soon as there are other clubs interested in Gallagher and the player has to decide his future too. To which Liam said he's got at least Newcastle, Crystal Palace, West Ham, and Villa. Again, much better and safer options than relegation threatened Everton, managerless Everton. But again, if Jorginho goes, Conor's still willing to stay and fight for his place. I mean, Dan, he's younger, right? He fits the mold. We've all talked a lot about FFP. Conor doesn't cost anything because he doesn't have a fee. He's just straight wages. Chelsea Youth put out a tweet that he fouls people, but he's actually more foul. He gets fouled more than the opposite. And he is, obviously, we had that crazy stat about how many tackles he does. He's someone different. He's so passionate to play for the club. Him leaving on a permanent, though, it's cash right to the bottom line. And it would help offset some things. I think this is where Chelsea fans, we get really torn, right?
Well, so first and foremost, how did you miss the fact that Sean Dyche is now the new manager of Everton Football Club?
Oh, because I don't care. He might as well be at Burnley for all I know, even though it's Vincent Kompany in the championship. But good on you, Sean.
Well, that did happen. And look, an appetizing situation made more appetizing by the fact that Sean Dyche is there. It's hard to see why he turned down Everton in this moment. But yeah, this was one I felt really conflicted on because the fee does seem astronomical for Gallagher, similar to what the fee is for Enzo, where it just feels inflated. It feels like someone is trying to do business because they need to solve a problem quickly. And Everton, if they're spending 45 million, which I would imagine part of that 5 is probably stay in the Premier League type of bonus at this point. I get it. Like, I get why you would want to go do it. I don't think it's great from a Chelsea perspective because you have a player who's on a longer contract who you could see potentially maybe even go for more during the summer window if he gets a few more performances and appearances. And if he isn't actually a part of your plans, I mean, we've seen Cassidy go on loan to Reading right now. We see Santos. They're trying to figure out, can they get him a work permit? We're seeing Chukwuemeka get opportunities. Mason's likely being pushed back into the midfield versus being an attacking option with some of the players we have now. And so that midfield has become actually kind of congested with the options that are going to be available, not just within the next couple of weeks, but next season, Nick. And I think that's likely where if Conor was thinking, hey, I want to go be a first team footballer guaranteed, maybe that's where you would make a consideration to go play someplace else. But I'm also super happy for him to be here and for him to be a contributor to this side, particularly as we want to go deep in the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, Conor's a Chelsea boy. Like, he, had a phenomenal season at Palace by all standards last year and wanted to come back and play for Chelsea, right? His family is Chelsea. He went to the World Cup on the back of some of his early season performances and his loan with Palace last year, right? Like, this is a guy with a huge amount of potential. I don't think he's necessarily been deployed in a way that would kind of get the best out of his talents, just kind of like the way that Mason's been deployed in various scenarios this year too, right? We saw him play as an attacking 8 last year, and he played really, really well for Vieira. And so, I think that's where his position is. I think where it gets hairy is what you talked about, right? Like if everyone's healthy and you have a fit N'Golo Kante, start, right? A fit Enzo Fernandez, start. A fit Mason Mount, start. A fit Kovacic, I don't know. Maybe starts over Mason, maybe doesn't. But like that's a hell of a first 4 to get your ass through, right? Like that's a huge amount of money spent on those players, huge amount of talent. And there's just a lot for him to consider, right? He is so early in his career that you would hate for it to become kind of a Ruben Loftus-Cheek situation, although I get with injuries and such that his progress has been delayed significantly longer. But how many years was Ruben kind of around the team, and never really got any playing time? And then when he finally did get playing time, we were like, holy shit, this guy's really good. Then he gets hurt, right? Like you would hate for that to happen to Conor. And I don't know what the right scenario is. I hope that they're all talking and they're making a really good decision for him and his future. And if it's at Chelsea, phenomenal. If it's not, and he decides he wants to go get first team football, whether it be back at Palace or any of the other, places that he's been kind of mooted to go, then I think we all applaud him on his way out and just note that he will be a forever Chelsea boy. Like he is, his family's actually Chelsea, unlike a lot of the stories that you hear out there. So it's a really, really difficult one. Like when you hear about him and Ruben, Brandon, like some of these guys that we know and like a lot being rumored to leave, these ones really, really hurt. And you don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, this signing is literally Andy Carroll to Liverpool, right? Oh, we fell into cash. We must spend cash, for Everton's sake. Because I went back, Gurhi, granted he didn't play in the Prem, I don't think at that time. He went to Palace for up to 20 million. So 40 million is a good amount of money for him. But like I said, what's to come? If he does pan out, can you just do a loan for a second? I don't know. You got to figure it out. But to lose him would be tough. Ziyech to PSG.
This came out of nowhere.
This is what I'm saying. They signed a couple of wingers. All of a sudden, you start tapping on the blocks. Ziyech has been in good form recently. He had a good World Cup. Him to PSG, it actually kind of makes sense. You're going to have more time, less pressure. He can play his fancy balls. Oh, he's filling the Angel Di Maria role. Hey, hit it to the 2 good guys up top, put it on a platter, they'll do their thing. Fabrizio said it. Santi Ouna said it. I saw it all over and over. I did have it pulled up. So just a couple hours ago, Fabrizio said they're looking at just how to structure the deal. Sounds like Ziyech has already agreed personal terms. Again, Chelsea are probably a little bit busy, so they're going to have the other part of the team, Dan, stay back and work on this deal while they're on Enzo watch. But it sounds like both parties are open to it. They're willing to it. They're just trying to figure out, is a loan with an option to buy? Is it an obligation to buy? Is it a buy right now? I think that's what they're just trying to figure out. But everything else, it seems like this is like welcomed by all parties.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy playing with Hakimi again on the right-hand side. I think that will be a welcome opportunity for him. And I think the pace of the league probably suits him extremely well to play in that side. So I think it's a great opportunity for him. If he goes and plays well there, I actually think I prefer the idea that it's as the translation says, dry loan for this. So a loan that is just a loan for the January to summer timeframe. If he plays well, he can actually increase his value and create more of a market for himself in the summer and have even more opportunity when maybe the full complement of bidders would be out there and would be considering bringing someone in like Ziyech with all of his talents into their side. And so this feels like a win for every party in terms of getting the wages off the book, opening a Champions League spot for another player, getting him minutes someplace else. Because now with Madueke, Sterling coming back, Felix being here, we talked about it. Like there is going to be a lot of options for Graham Potter, and you just don't see Ziyech as potentially option one or even maybe option two on some days, Nick. And that's probably in his mind similar to the other players in his line of thinking. If I'm not going to be option one or option two, I want to go be that someplace else.
I think the long and short of it for me is he does not necessarily fit a play style for Chelsea Football Club that we've seen identified. I think he was a good thought under Lampard and has struggled to fit into the team. Had some really good moments, but not been a consistent threat. If PSG want to go and pay his wages, I think the bigger. A lot of these players that I think are on the way out, the wages are the hard part. Like we've talked to Naz multiple times, that we were talking to him today. He said this on the podcast before, so I don't think he'll mind saying this, but like, it's not necessarily the sale price. It's like, if you're on a current deal, that club has to pick up your wages at their current rate. Right. And like PSV Eindhoven aren't going to pay, hundreds of thousands of pounds a week for Ziyech to go there. It just doesn't make sense for them and their wage structure. So, I mean, I think this is a really interesting one, and one that makes sense for PSG, one that makes sense for Chelsea, and we've done business before. We can do business again. What I got.
Yeah, no, just looking at a couple other things here. It's it definitely does when you like just align the stars, line the pieces. At that one point it was, Ruben to Newcastle as well. Connor's got to figure it out. Newcastle's picked up Anthony Gordon. So it seems like they're being selective on who they bring in. But the other ramifications that we're gonna have to deal with is who gets in the Champions League squad, who doesn't, right? We literally have a squad that is too big, and the hard decisions are going to be made. So if you can offload some people to make those decisions a little bit easier, obviously that will help. But I think some players with injuries might be really unfortunate to not be included the way it stands. So anyways, as we wrap up here, we gotta do something dumb, maybe make some predictions. What we're gonna wake up to, as Nick said on the last pod, crusty-eyed, peeking at his phone in bed. There's no worse way to start your morning tomorrow than that, Nick. Get up, get your feet on the ground, glass of water, then maybe look at your phone so you can do the spit take. Yeah,
I'm gonna start off with our friend Elliot of the Arsenal Vision podcast. Who 14 minutes ago published an episode called New for Patreon, Deadline Day Disaster Prep, where he says Jorginho trash, Caicedo praying hands, and what is Edu cooking up, and a bit more. The write-up for the show goes, Elliot goes solo to give his take on the Jorginho links, the approach to deadline day, and how to bring about the challenge facing Arsenal as they head into the final day. I mean, this is deadline day disaster prep. What an unbelievable thing this is, Dan. It's a lot of fun to watch the meltdown.
They're supposed to be going for the Premier League title. They can't convince anyone to come there. We're in 10th place saying, come on in. No problem.
You also have the City situation, which has been absolutely fascinating watch, with Cancelo leaving, potentially Bernardo Silva being allowed to leave, with likely Man City coming to us and saying, hey, we would really like Ben Chilwell since you're playing Cucurella, which to that I would say, we've got Ian Motson. Oh, yes, he's about to be back healthy, though. I would probably look at a different option for giving them another first team left back and then seeing if they wanted that solution. But look, I would say if we're saying incomings and outgoings, I think there's two outgoings. I think it will be one of Conor or Jorginho, not both. And I think it is going to be Ziyech because those look likely. I think maybe you get a out of left field, but there's not really a defender who needs a loan or is really available loan. This is just within the first team. I would hope that, some of the talented academy players potentially get some opportunities. I guess the only other one that you might see a loan for, like David Datro Fofana.
Yeah,
that would be like
I can see that.
He's just going to be further down the pecking order as we bring in more attackers back into the side. And you want him to get some opportunities to play this season. I mean, you likely could put him with the dev side as an option there, but that doesn't necessarily give them that opportunity that they're looking for in terms of their career development. And so I would say 2 to 3 outgoings is probably, if it's over 3, I'm going to be surprised. And I think the incoming would just be 1. I don't see the Caicedo deal happening in addition to an Enzo deal as much as that's been reported. I think that's wishful thinking by West Ham fans who happen to also be reporters who are hoping that we don't go for Declan Rice in the summer. And
do that Venn diagram overlap in your mind. Go for it.
It's 100%. It's just one circle. There's no Venn diagram there. I think that would be what I would expect based upon everything else. And look, I like placing a good bet. I would not want to bet against Todd Bowley and Igbali and others who have seemingly found a way this transfer window, Nick, to just keep on getting it done. And so, let's let it ride. Keep the bets going.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw out some. Yeah, because I agree. I think it will either be Conor or Jorginho, but not both. So whichever one you want to stay, that's the one you pick. I do think the Ziyech thing makes a lot of sense. Kind of out of left field, but makes sense. I like the loan for Fofana because I just don't think he's going to play a whole lot with João Felix, Kai Havertz, and Aubameyang there. I think that's a smart call. A couple of wackadoo options could potentially be, we've heard Newcastle are in for Ruben. Do they make kind of a crazy ass bid if Connor's not going to go? Is that a bid that they make? And then I don't know if Barcelona is going to come back in for Aubameyang or not, but you could kind of see that popping up out of nowhere as well. I think those are the other two that I would see as potentials, but the rest of the squad's kind of set. I don't think anyone's coming in for any of our central defenders at this point. I think it's pretty well established. It doesn't sound like Pulisic's going anywhere this window, so that would be kind of the other one in my mind, but I think that's more of a summer deal.
Yeah, I think Leeds are topped off at this point with Americans.
It's like FFP where fantasy football where you can only have 3 players from one team. That's kind of what they've kind of reached their Americans threshold over there.
Raj Bennett tweeted that the most Americans on a team was Fulham. They had 5 Americans.
Whoa. Yeah. Full America. Yeah.
They had Eddie Johnson. He was the one that I was surprised there. Casey Keller was there. I think it was
Clint.
Brian McBride, Clint. I could not tell you for the life of me who the 5th one was. But again, it's just funny to kind of see that, and obviously a little bit of a side thing. So anyways, I think that's probably what you guys are saying makes sense of where we'll land, and it's a lot. It's definitely not nothing by any means, but it's gonna be a ride. So we just want to give you a little primer this morning. I'm sure news is already broken by the time this goes out, and I'm sure by the time all of you are listening to this, things will have happened. But whet your appetite. It's gonna be a long day. The window closes, and we got to play a game of football. Right. We got to turn around and put all the pieces together, put the toys in the box and see what Graham Potter and team can do with it. So anyways, it's been fun. Nothing like milking the transfer window for everything. It's like, hopefully all of you have stayed sane. It has been hard to keep up with everything, but good vibes. It kind of feels like you're coming back to Chelsea. So it'll be really, really interesting what this team looks like by the time we're there in person watching them in London against Leeds in Dortmund in the Champions League. Yeah.
1 month. It's crazy.
God.
All right. Well, anyways, that's going to wrap us up. Hope you'd enjoyed all the transfer coverage. It's been a lot. Obviously, Dan and Shamir doing a ton of profiles, the journalist friends jumping in, giving us everything they know, which sometimes isn't much, but they're still happy to jump on and help. So take care of yourselves, Chelsea fans. Enjoy it. It's going to be a big one. So yeah, happy transfer deadline day. Until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.